Okay, this one's quick. Got to get to the protests. And it's called Watch Your Mouth. What happened when my 3 a.m. self hit the streets? Watch your mouth, said a cravat looking old rich guy at me, leaning and slowing his Mercedes soft top down just enough to get purchase. Fuck off, I said back at him with my whole body laughing inside at this answer. I was at full volume through his open window. I felt like I'd water cannoned the inside of his car with 1,000 psi of not today, motherfucker. His tasteful little Sean Connery beard looked pressed back into his flesh by just how much I was not interested in watching my mouth at this time. His was one of many muting comments made as my signs and I paced the overpass of money connecting Marin County's two main malls. The Bay Area doesn't seem to flaunt their supercar money quite like Silicon Valley or LA. But still, it was Range Rovers, Teslas, Lexi, Beamers, Mercedes, and a few big flash trucks that dominated in the cars coursing past. These, plus the Kias and Fits of the reasonable and the work trucks and beaters of the cash class, came by in batched release from the stoplights either side of Highway 101 where the malls lived. Now, you don't actually call them malls if you can keep them straight at all, which I can't. You call one town center and the other the village. The former states it was created with life in mind, and as its revitalization architect describes, has a richly layered public environment that celebrates the Marin lifestyle. The other not mall offers an unparalleled shopping experience perfect for even the most discerning consumer. My sign said, fuck Donald Trump on one side and fuck Elon Musk on the other. I had purchased the cardstock already bordered at a Staples from a lone clerk there. Like so many of the teetering big box stores with their last sprinklings of humans, this Staples was ghost empty as ever. 90s era retail is giving way to the robot towns of 3 million foot distribution centers now swallowing America's outskirts. This Staples was still somehow not out of business, so Trump had a wide gold glitter surround and Musk a deep red metallic one. I marked my signs on the trunk of our own now beater car, a 200,000-mile peeling BMW with a duct-taped sunroof and a gallon of rainfall traveling its passenger wells. It still drives the whiplash roads to our house like no other, came out just before the screens took over, and has enough memories just in the smell of it that we nurse it on like we do the oldest dog. Here at the outer edge of the town center parking lot, it would wait, where even on the most beautiful of days in this most beautiful of counties, the parking lots of the not malls are packed. Now, no lie, I have been that discerning consumer gophering along posh aisles indoors, while the sun shone bright down a wild and brilliant coast not distant. I know these parking lots well. When I've heard people say, oh, I hate shopping, all this long life, I breathe to myself the louche truth inside. I like shopping. I like clothes. If I'm knocking around life like a bad valve, an aimless box of plumbing parts, nothing settles the place like a wee shot of purchasing power. The years we were broke, I did it with cash at the Salvation Army on dresses or a backstreet thrift store. Even the house paint aisle at Ace Hardware or a giant book haul from the public library did the trick. Now I'm a gunslinger through saloon doors with a credit card at each hip. Instant command and discernment is the power cloak. A little money spent drops over your raw and nattering self. You glide your wings across that store threshold and land with the raptor eye of the seasoned American consumer. The idea I would now be blaring profanities and punching a ferocious fist in the air across this same Joe Malone-scented real estate, or that sleek ladies in Range Rovers with promising children beside would be pumping fists back. Car after car after car saw fuck Donald Trump and lit right up. I saw young men in the largest, most bulbous of the Teslas nodding and scrambling for their horns to join in. Tiburon-looking pairs of Lexus ladies in scarves and coifs opened their faces in surprise and said, yes, yes, yes. While preteens crossing the overpass gave me side smiles and looked scandal-happy to see it. Workers in trucks full of bins and implements nodded and smiled and thumbs upped quietly. Cars of teenage girls made rapid heart hands and thrust their arms out of windows in glee love. There were many quiet thumbs, some two-fingered peace signs, and darting almost honks from the timid. But whole bursts of cars hit their horns hard, and their horns and their horns. I saw such release and relief in people that I had a hard time quitting. Just one more batch of traffic, I would pledge before exit. But the expressions were irresistible. You wanted to make sure just a few more faces got that juicy boost of, you're not alone with your dismay, your shock, your disgust, your grief, your helplessness, your anger. You are right to feel anger. I was not just a walking signpost. Whether their windows were open or closed, I was gut yelling percussively, fuck Donald Trump, over and over with no dip in strength. I accompanied it with the kind of arching overhead fist that stretches your whole side body and comes up from the center of the earth. I was turning those tiny nods and wee thumbs into fists. I was urging smiles to give way to honks and trusting some of the honks would turn into more angry bodies, more masked non-compliance. Now, it wasn't all hearts, hands, and honks that day, to be sure. I got flipped off hard just as many times in the money air of Marin as I did in downtown Philadelphia last year. I saw both hands come off a steering wheel for the double bird. I even got 4 from a hunching couple in a black Porsche Cayenne. I saw sour faces on solo men and solo women alike. And if they didn't give me the finger, they did heavy thumbs down with their heads shaking. Every one of them got a lightning loud badger strike back from me with both fingers at 11, positioned deep into their rear views. A truck full of cheap laughs young white guys circled twice, throwing fingers. I'd gotten the same from a bike crew of young black guys outside City Hall in Philadelphia. It was just a lark and a prank for them both, being MAGA, without the malevolent intensity of their elders. Now, you do have to suffer to circle at that overpass with its multi-lane traffic lights and no legal U-turns. The second time my white young'uns came around was to film themselves flipping me, flipping them. Ah, the discourse. Another such truckful threw the lamest handfuls of trash at me. It was practically gum wrappers fluttering. There's a hand-dry car wash about every 100 feet in Marin, which can make the attack trash harder to come by when you need to pepper a lib. At one point in my laps, a trim couple of maybe 40 in matching red athletic garb and ball caps was coming the other way like they were heading to a softball social. Their nipped faces and compressed silence as they passed looked as though me and my sign had given them the most severe bout of acid indigestion, but they had a pact to keep it down. When they had just crested me, though, the man couldn't keep from releasing, head down. That's a stupid sign. I wheeled on their retreating backs like a barrel horse. What? I boomed. My voice was plowing up through all of the impossible revulsion and grief I felt watching that scene in our Oval Office. It's the one where the giant and worn-hearted war president Zelensky was debased by his inferiors, and 80-year alliances so laboriously tended by the grown-ups came to a cracking end. It happened on yellow Tea Party seats at the sticky, shit-smear hands of that yapper Vance and his fat Nixon. Now, this whippet of a Marin man thinks my sign is the offending event? We're with Russia now? I hurled at the couple's retreating athleisure wear. Her matching hat bill was turned on his, trying to shuffle their narrow selves right along. He sure wanted to turn. We're with Russia now? I blasted again. Her herding flutter at Marin man barely held, but they muttered away like runner ducks. Another Marin man encounter came more defensively from a dad with a car seat of baby in back. I agree with you, but there are kids, he said, slowing and lowering his window to say so with feeling. I thought, man, you're modern. I thought, God, your kids have a bigger problem than some woman swearing about her government above the freeway. You think there weren't kids around during the Vietnam protests, the civil rights movement, the Civil War, the motherfucking revolution? You think there aren't kids in Ukraine, in Gaza? You think the 200,000 federal employees and counting don't have kids? You weenie. We've got a bigger problem, is all I said back into his window. No sorries. What I thought further is, people are creating weenies who don't know how to use the most versatile, vaguest nerve of a word in the English language when they quarantine children from its use. As parents, we swore freely, but told our kids, these are grown-up words. You can't use them. They're all 3 taller than us both now and still don't swear in our company. But they sure as shit know how. My third and last Weenie Marin Man encounter was on foot. Do you really think this is good for the Democratic Party? Asked a typically trim REI dad in his lightweight down layer, wicking performance shorts and all-terrain trainers. He looked like he had several bullet points stacked up, none of which would condone my ways. He waited as though he thought I would stop what I was doing and converse. What? Was becoming my stock answer to these knuckle wimps. It helped that the music on my back was loud, but the exasperation in my head was even louder. What? I spit again. He spoke and paused a couple of times as he left, as though he couldn't believe we weren't going to have a big talk about his ideas on the Democratic Party that day. Between my loudspeaker of punk mad music and the up yours of my signs, I decided to range the shoulder of the overpass well short of some more refined-looking folks protesting at the top. There was a retriever up there, too, and I never liked to swear around dogs. I was blasting away when a pair of earnest, direct women approached from that group. Hi, I'm Sarah, said the lead, stretching out a hand. I stopped and shook hers warmly, saying, Hi, I'm Megan. I looked to the second for greeting, but she was quiet. We love your energy, Sarah continued, and would really like to get you involved in future events. Nice, I said, non-committal, my ingenue organizer days way the fuck behind me. But we're trying to avoid profanity, Sarah finished, eyes firmly on mine, her second a shoulder behind her. Oh, this is what was happening. No problem. Well, I am not, I smiled large, as in not trying to avoid profanity. I turned to raise my signs high to the cars I was missing and cranked the volume back up with my thumb. This fucking party. Another woman handed me wildflowers as she was leaving her post at the top. She had some elaborate message tied to the letters of Doge on her sign, a Sierra Trading Post outfit for all weather, and looked well hydrated. I was flowers and word clever a month earlier at the Sacramento deportation protests February 5th, but now, not a cell of me. After Sarah's visit, I dropped the wildflowers against the overpass wall and got louder. This is no time for not swearing. I know I was raised free because the first time I heard people use the word appropriate, as in, I don't know if that's appropriate, I felt pet backwards. It was used in a muting, soothing way to quiet with least conflict, like fingers pressed across a puppy's lips. That was just inappropriate, and its nunnery sister phrase, unacceptable, when used to girdle behavior or expression, sounded to me even then like a minced lips death knell for freedom. Of course I'm not in support of waggling penises in public or leering harassment or abuse. Those are offensive, inappropriate, and unacceptable. I'm talking about snipping away at outlier expression and conflict in favor of conformity. That is the death knell. Another such phrase that crept in like an ingrown hair of non-confrontational curbing was uncomfortable, as in, I don't know, it just makes me uncomfortable. This innocuous sounding term also hit me hard wrong when I first heard it. The very free people I admired growing up would have winced their own big what at this content-free check on behavior and expression. Yes, of course, for actual victims needing to protect themselves against abuse, have at it. But the rest of us, therapy speak must not leak all over as strong and free people. If folks can start hedge trimming the behavior or expression of others based only on their own queasy sensations of propriety or discomfort, and not with a vigorous and noisy countercase, we all become weenies. I was wide awake as a child in the 70s and 80s, and no one was mincing around about what was and wasn't appropriate, or whether a passerby might feel uncomfortable or not. I saw creative, contentious, and rowdy beings knocking up against each other in truth and mess, vigor and change, conflict and progress. I knew the adults who could swear best, and my rascal friend Debbie and I would practice their ways along a dusty road in summer sun to get it right. So to each and every of the above censures and rebukes, I marveled at the depth-charged force of my near autonomic reaction. Practice makes us stronger. I was fucking ready to swamp these Trumpers on their own pissant terms. Let anger be your leader is my trial subscription to self. To what end, Dems too often ask. Gandhi, they whinge, confusing non-violence with non-anger. Or anger so destructive, they self-mute, confusing the rules of marital therapy and child-rearing with the rules of civil assault. We are experiencing a civil invasion. We, those of us still planning to live in an American-style democracy, have been wholly invaded. Anger is the one most accurate response. Anger can be the engine of truth. Let your anger get creative. Let your anger poke you toward the next thing, day by day. Find clarity through your own anger. Practice. Reject these wankers in every solo and collective way possible. With moral force, not decorum. Don't cavil about your righteousness because MAGA has theirs. It's not the same. MAGA anger is not ours. MAGA is on the wrong side of history. Trust your own. One person's foolishness, offensiveness, and excess, which happen to be what courage looks like before others catch up, can help the next. More people will begin to release their anger and grief into the air where it belongs. What we do with it next is for tomorrow, but let it start rolling out onto the tracks today like a million ancient cannons from their bunkers. Every one act is a start. Every day is a start. My morning mirror mantra is, not today, fascists. Maybe tomorrow, but not today. The alternative is this dipping along with dark and silent shock on the inside, alone, and little smiling errands on the outside. That ain't it. It's time to guide our 3 a.m. selves by the arm out into broad and ordinary daylight and to introduce them to the public. Thanks.